Hi guys, Therese Coffey, the Secretary of State for the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, was challenged in the House of Commons on Tuesday about how her government has allowed private companies to pump raw sewage into English waterways. The discussion at hand was part of the Opposition Day debate on water quality and sewage discharge. The challenge here came from Green MP Caroline Lucas, and the Tory response was as pathetic as usual. Have a listen to this.
Caroline Lucas.
Well, I'm grateful to her for giving way because the complacency she's demonstrating is frankly shocking. Not one English river is classed as being in healthy conditions. None meet good chemical standards. Few meet good ecological standards, and they have been in power for 13 years. That is a record of failure. When you look as well at the fact that dividends now average £1.6 billion a year, that's money going out of the system altogether, why won't she actually accept that privatisation has been a complete failure, put it back in public hands and make sure the investment goes where it's needed?
Well,
Speaker,
the Honourable Lady should be aware, of course, that during our time in the last decade, we put into place legislation that made it tougher to meet ecological status. That includes taking on the monitoring of certain chemicals, which isn't done by the Welsh or Scottish governments.
Wait a minute. In Wales, water is under private ownership, but it's a dividend system. It's a no-profit dividend system where money that is made is reinvested in upgrading the system and reducing prices for consumers. While in Scotland, it's under public ownership. It's not under private ownership. Only in England are we seeing these problems to this extent, where you have raw sewage being pumped into rivers and lakes and into the sea because these private companies are focusing on profit and making sure that their shareholders are benefiting, not ordinary consumers and certainly not the environment.
And that's why we'll continue to work on this in quite a specific way. But what I will say to her is that we are absolutely leaning into this issue. I genuinely wish they'd started to sort out the issues while they were in office. I'm not saying they did completely nothing, but they certainly weren't being clear with the public on what was going on. And we knew in 2010, just in a moment, that there was no money left after Labour's damage to the public purse. The Labour Chief Secretary then was honest enough to tell her that in his own writing.
That was a joke. Does Therese Coffey not understand the difference between a joke and not a joke? But all was this going back to 2010, back to before the Conservatives were in power? Like if your response is, well, it's not our fault because whoever came before messed up, and that was 13 years ago, then what's the point in actually voting for the Conservative Party if they're incapable of fixing these problems? Which is a lie, of course. They created these problems. They're happy to see these water companies pump raw sewage into rivers, lakes, and into the sea because they don't care. These companies should be under public ownership. They should not be private. If they're not capable of making sure that the water is clean, then they have no business. They should have no business in water, in that sector. They should be closed down. It should be taken into public ownership and the standards raised. What is the point in allowing these private companies to make massive profits and allow standards to slip? Well, of course, this is happening because perhaps these private companies are donating to the Conservative Party, or the Conservatives just don't give a crap.
What we didn't know was quite the mess left behind for yet again a Conservative government to clean up, and that is what we've set about doing.
To clean up. You are making this disaster. It's your making. And once again, always going back to blaming somebody else. Not our fault, it's the previous Labour government. Not our fault, it's the pandemic. Not our fault, it's the EU. It's not our fault, not our fault, not our fault. It's always somebody else's fault. Like, why would you vote for a party that is constantly blaming everyone else, has never taken responsibility for its actions, never taken responsibility for its mistakes? When was the last time you heard a Tory minister stand at the dispatch box and say, I'm sorry, we messed up? Or, I'm taking responsibility for this mistake, this error, this disaster? When was the last time you heard somebody say that? It's always somebody else's fault. Oh, the previous administration, Wales, Scotland, the Scottish government, it's their fault, it's the Welsh government's fault, is not our fault, never, and it's never a council that's run by a Tory administration. It's never their fault either. It's always somebody else's. So once again, that begs the question, what's the point in voting for a party that never takes responsibility for its actions? The sooner this individual is booted out of office, the better. She's incompetent. She's a narcissist. She's arrogant. She doesn't give a crap about actually doing her job. You can see her expressions when she's asked questions. It's like, I don't want to be here. I'm here because I need, to punch in the time. I want the fat paycheck at the end of the month. This is all I'm concerned with. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.